Disdain in London, from the Esmeralda King series of books by Kathryn Louise. Chapter 4, The Lost File. The call with Cordelia had ended abruptly. The case seemed interesting, but I was always nervous about starting a new one. It wasn't just about the money. I had high standards and was conscious of taking on a case that I couldn't solve or having to stop partway through. What if Cordelia didn't like the truth? What if there was no case to solve? Maybe there was nothing to this other than her vivid imagination, but I did have questions in my own mind as to why Andrew Faraday had been watching Cordelia and her daughter, and why his wife thought he was at work whilst this was happening. How had he known all of her details, and who was the other woman? Personal information actually wasn't that hard to find if you search for it carefully enough. It could be found on a variety of public sites, or someone on the inside could have access, but more alarmingly, why had he wanted it? And why her? To me, none of this was sitting right. But did I have the brain power and strength to take on such a case at this present time? There was one person I needed to speak to first before making any decisions, and that was Hunter. Hey, busy? I text. Even if he was, he normally responded. I watched as I saw the screen change and the dots bounce. He was typing back. Give me 5. Just finishing a lab report, he responded. That gave me enough time to throw on my jacket and jump into the car. I had an important meeting with the girls that evening at Cinco Chicas and needed to get on my way. That was obviously code for I was going for a drink with Casey, Molly, Amy, and Tilly. It had been way too long, and I needed to see them. More importantly, I needed to have an important chat with Hugo and find out what was going on with him and Sarah. Samuel told me to take his Porsche 911 Carrera 4 GTS while he was away, but I was so nervous to drive it in case I damaged it. Reluctantly, I picked up his set of keys and jumped into one of my most favourite cars. I think it was another reason for him to wrap me around his little finger. I certainly hadn't had a boyfriend before who let me drive their expensive sports car whilst they were out of the country, and I wasn't going to moan. The sound of the engine couldn't be beaten as I turned the start button clockwise and sat there with a smile on my face. It was all black, including a matching spoiler, the engine at the back, and a small front boot which was barely big enough for 3 bags of shopping. I connected my phone, set up the satellite navigation system to reach Cinco Chicas, and waited for the engine to warm up. I could feel the seat vibrating beneath me in a way that I had never before in a car. Still not using the full power behind it, the wheels span into action as I led the driveway behind me and sunk into this comfortable sports seat behind the steering wheel. I smiled from ear to ear, even though it was like driving a buggy. I loved it dearly. The speakers rattled as Hunter's number flashed onto the screen and let out a ringing sound. I answered quickly using sound activation. Hey! His larger-than-life voice beamed into the car and startled me just as I had reacted to the main gates. Hey! I answered back. Are you in the car? Where are you off to? He asked. Cinco Chicas to meet the girls, I replied. Is Casey going? I knew exactly where this was leading. Of course, I giggled under my breath. My shift finishes in 10. I'll be there. He sounded like he was about to hang up. Oh, hi, Esme. How are you? How was your day? I chuckled with sarcasm. Sorry, it's been a busy day, and it's been an absolute pain. That was rude of me. How are you? He apologized. It's okay. I was only joking with you. While I have you on the phone, though, I wanted to ask you about someone. I took the opportunity while I had him, and Casey wasn't distracting him. Despite them liking each other, and everyone knew they did, they still hadn't managed to get it together. Go on, he said, shuffling papers around in the background, half listening to me. A man who jumped from a building a few weeks back, does it ring any bells with you? I asked. Maybe. We get quite a few. I could hear busy sirens in the background and radios calling in officers. You sure? And Andrew? Uh-huh. I could tell he was distracted. Okay, well, I thought I would check. He cut me off mid-sentence. Wait, did you say he jumped from a building, middle-aged, mid-afternoon? Not sure about how he was or what time of day, but possibly. I flicked the indicator and took a left at the junction. The thing is, Esme, people jump daily, especially in London, but there was this one man a few weeks back who stuck out. Well, I don't remember him, but his widow came into the station for questioning and wanted us to help find out what happened. We also interviewed an eyewitness. The reason I remember him is because he sent a message to her before he did it. Sad, but almost cryptic. Left behind a 4-year-old daughter, very sad. Hunter suddenly kicked into action. A 4-year-old daughter, you say, and you gave her my number. I began piecing snippets together. Yeah, I did. I felt so guilty that we couldn't help her, but thought you could. Sorry, did she call you? It was his second apology of the conversation. Jenny Faraday, I think was her name. Well, no, she didn't, but somebody else did. I tried explaining. Ah. I braked abruptly at the junction as I wasn't completely unused to how responsive the car was, then took a right onto the dual carriageway and sped away in the outside lane. A lady by the name of Cordelia Jones did. I was concentrating more on the conversation and less on my speed as I began leaving all the other cars behind me. Ironic to think I was on the phone to an inspector while speeding. Nope, that doesn't sound familiar. She said a young man had been following her for weeks, but the last time she saw him was the week before he jumped. He seemed agitated, asking questions about her daughter, knew all her details. He sent her a message saying he would be in touch, but never did. So when she called a week later and Jenny, his wife, answered, he had already jumped. Cordelia wants me to pick up the case and find out what Andrew was doing, why he was following her, and what it has to do with her daughter. I paused, hoping Hunter would be able to shed some light. Hang on a second. I'm pretty sure another woman called the station to report that a man had been following her. He had messaged her and someone was going to trace the number and his history, but they couldn't find anything. The name Andrew Faraday sounds familiar, but I hadn't linked it to the case with Jenny, and to be honest, it wasn't passed over, so I didn't pay much attention. If he was dangerous, why would he leave his name and number unless he was trying to make deliberate contact with these women? Let me check. I'll go through the records before I leave. He paused. Are you going to take it on? I was hoping you would have more information before I made a decision. Like what? He replied. All I know is that Jenny said he had sent her a message that morning he died, saying he couldn't live without knowing what he knows now, and they would be better off without him. He said he seemed obsessed with something, and instead of going to work, he was going elsewhere, but she didn't know where. Ah, makes sense. I quizzed him again. There's another thing I find strange. You said he texted his wife before he jumped, right? Right. Hunter was listening. Most people take their phones wherever they go. Didn't he jump with his phone in his hand or in his pocket? In which case, it would be smashed, right? No, Hunter confirmed. For some reason, as he climbed over the railings, he placed his phone on the ledge before jumping, so we recovered it. The team checked it over, but as it wasn't suspicious, it was returned to his wife when she came in to leave a statement. Ah, okay, that makes sense. I had to disregard that theory then. As for the message, Jenny didn't seem to know what he was talking about. All very strange if you ask me, Hunter said. And the family? I prompted. No idea. I can search the records, but as there were no foul play involved, it's not something for the police. He jumped from the building on his own accord. We have searched CCTV and have eyewitnesses. There is nothing more we can do. His wife did say that his father tried reaching him, but failed, and he rarely spoke to his brother. Oh, one thing that was mentioned was that he hadn't taken well to his mother's passing a few weeks before. I'm not sure if this is relevant or not, but maybe worth noting. Hunting said it as a matter of fact and in a professional capacity, but I was secretly hoping for more to the story. Hmm, I had nothing more to add. Sorry, are you sure there is even a case or just a couple of women who are mad with the world and reading way more into it than there really is? Hunter? I bit at his remark. You know what I mean. Be careful you aren't dragged into something that isn't there. I knew exactly what he meant. I get it. I'm a bit skeptical myself, but it does seem odd. knowing her name, where she lived, where her daughter went to school. She said he was acting peculiarly, saying something about there being more than meets the eye. Maybe he was just leading her to think that. You know what some people are like when they're obsessed with someone or something? He could just be playing with her, stringing her along, perhaps. Exactly what I thought at first, but now I can't help but think. I said I'm trying to reason with my thoughts. Esme, let me speak to you about this later. I'm just wrapping up things here at the station. Otherwise, I'll never get away. I'll see you soon. Okay, sure. Sorry. I'll see you there, I said, hanging up. Replaying the scenario in my head with Hunter, it did seem a lot more suspicious than I had previously thought. But where should I begin? Siri, call Cordelia Jones, I said out aloud in the car so that my phone could pick it up and dial for me. The car connected and her number rang out. I waited anxiously for her to pick up, but no luck. Damn it, I said, thinking I had missed her. Hello? She answered. Cordelia, it's Esmeralda King. We spoke this morning. I spoke as clearly as I could above the noisy background of the car. Oh, hey, Esmeralda. Sorry, I was out and didn't see your number before answering. That's okay. Listen, I'm off out, but I will pick up the case. A quick question for you. I swallowed heavily. Did you have Jenny Faraday's number, please? There are a few things I need to ask her. Great news. Yes, of course I do. Well, it is Andrew's old number, but I'm sure she'll pick it up, as she's still trying to piece things together herself, and any calls on his number could shed some light. She quickly replied. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. I'll be in touch shortly. I didn't want Hunter to give me the number for confidentiality reasons. Sure. Oh, and Cordelia, I quickly added before she ended the call. Yeah? Soon as I have more information, I'll let you know. Of course. Thanks, Esmeralda. You're welcome. I hung up and spent the rest of the journey in silence, thinking about the possibilities surrounding the second case I was about to take on. Pulling up outside Cinco Chicas, it felt like home. The familiar front door, the place I went to when times were tough and surrounded by my best friends. I noticed the all too familiar face of a stocky, well-built man. He stood outside the club with his hands linked together in front of him, his thickest neck clenched tight and ready for action, always with a dubious and stern facial expression. Dimitri. I beat the horn, he jumped, and I smiled a wicked smile. He walked over to the car, which I tried to lower without laughing too loud. Don't think you have the upper hand because you are driving your boyfriend's amazing car. You need a permit to park there. He cocked his head to one side and watched my reaction. I know, but the club owner said it was okay for an hour or two. I said matter-of-factly. Fair enough, just an hour or two, he smiled. I'm only having one though, so I won't be long. I have to drive back. I raised the window back up again and got ready to get out. I could see the main doors open behind him as the larger-than-life Hugo appeared, a huge grin beaming ear to ear, like he'd just opened the doors to a stage and was about to present. Nice wheels, he shouted. Always loved a Porsche. Would you trust me to take it for a spin? Hugo may have been the club manager, but he was like a second brother to me. I got out and stood on the rain-drenched pavement whilst he gave me the biggest hug I had in a long time. I would, but I don't think you'd fit behind the wheel. I laughed. Ah, Miss King, so nice to see you. You're looking well, he said into my hair as we embraced. Good to see you too, Hugo. It's been a while. I took the permit from his huge hands and placed it on the dashboard, slamming the door shut, blipping the central locking as the wing mirrors folded upwards, and walked into the club with him, arm in arm. So, tell me, how is Samuel? He's good, thanks. He's in America currently, flying back tomorrow. I looked up at his face as he breathed heavily, climbing the steps back up to the club. I'm guessing you would know how he was, seeing as he is with Sarah. I shot him a sneaky look. Oh, what is that supposed to mean? He asked. Well, you and Sarah looking all cozy, collecting her from the ATR and partners dinner last night. It's none of my business, but I'm just worried that you will. Damn right it's none of your business. Hugo was blunt. He had never snapped back at me like that before. I didn't hide my shocked facial expression from him. Sorry, Esme. But to be truthful, there isn't anything for you to be concerned with. The long and short of it is that she sent me a couple of flirty messages and reeled me in. I thought she was genuinely interested, asked me to pick her up as she was in a situation, and said she would pay me for it. Turns out she just wanted insider information about the club instead. Hugo held his lips together in anger as we both reached the top of the club steps. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry. I was just concerned. You know what she's like. You can't trust her. Before heading to the main bar, Hugo took a moment just to catch his breath. You sound wheezy. Are you all right? I thought you would be used to this by now, walking up and down those stairs every day. He was normally such a fit man. It was the second time I was concerned about him. I've been ill. A chest infection. It's knocked me for six. Did Hunter not tell you? Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry I haven't been around. It's okay, Esme. You don't need to apologize. I know you've been busy and you needed a bit of time out. After the fiasco with Sarah and the rest of the Richardsons, I get it. I understand. I should have learned after. He stopped. But it's so nice to see you now. I hung my head. It was true. I hadn't seen my friends or Hunter over the last few weeks. I had been so wrapped up with Samuel and trying to forget the last case. I had disengaged from my closest friends and family. It wasn't something I was proud of. There she is, a familiar voice said as we reached the top of the stairs and entered the main club. Casey, how are you? She extended her arm and held out a cocktail, just what I needed. I took a sip and then reached out for a hug with her. She smelt wonderful. She always did. Well manicured, hair hat sat perfectly. She was wearing the most impressive dress that showcased her unbelievable figure. The smell of liquor and sweet alcohol infused the air from behind the bar. Where are the others? I asked. Oh, on their way. They're coming together, but they had to wait for Molly to finish work, Casey replied. I hear you have just picked up a new case. I blinked. Gosh, that was fast work. I had only told Hunter 10 minutes earlier, so they had clearly been talking. Yeah, kind of. Casey loved working on the cases. She was just as fascinated as I was when it came to solving the crimes. I think that was why she and Hunter got on so well. They would spend hours talking about work. They should have been confidential, but Hunter quite frequently spoke about the situation and the characters he was faced with. No one had to be a mastermind to piece together his work colleagues when meeting them from the descriptions he often gave. He never divulged names, though, but he did speak about what they had done and why they had been brought in. That was what made us a great team. We all shared a common interest. Sounds peculiar if you ask me. A man follows you, seems overly interested in your daughter, but weeks later ends his life. All a bit suspicious. I think it would make me want to find out why too. Casey shrugged. Exactly. I need to find out more, but I think this could be an interesting one. So, I hear Tilly has a new job. Sounds very exciting, might I add. I half winked at Casey. A government official? Interesting. You're only excited because you know Tilly will be able to help with some of the investigations, Casey laughed in return and nudged me with one of her elbows. We sat at the bar with Hugo on the other side, discussing and debating the case. One by one, the girls turned up and greeted each other with one of the biggest hugs. Despite us spending time apart, it was like we had seen each other the day before. It had never been awkward before us, and I hoped it would always stay the same way. Molly was always as fascinating as ever. Her career in medicine never failed to interest me, and she was always on the most incredible clinical trials that put my mental capacity to shame. Although she had previously studied many different areas at university and had taken a few placements in various fields of expertise, her current project meant she was in a top laboratory in the north of the country working on cancer research. If I understood her correctly, she was telling us all about immunotherapy and how it was really advancing their treatment methods. A lot of the time, I felt that Molly was so engrossed in all the medical work that she neglected her personal life somewhat. She'd had a few short-lived boyfriends against whilst at university and a few one-night stands, but nothing meaningful. The year before, she'd fallen in love with a fellow scientist. They'd lasted about 6 months, a lovely young woman called Marie, whom I'd met a couple of times and really thought she was the one. I knew Molly had thought that too, but Marie had broken Molly's heart. Ever since then, I think she decided that a relationship just wasn't for her and returned to her career instead. Amy was in a similar boat to Molly. Her love for psychology and psychotherapy meant she thrived on finding nightmare men who she thought needed to be fixed. The typical bad boy type of attitude that had a history of challenges or events shaping their current state, and nothing better than for someone like Amy to come along and be their answer. Her life was always chaos. Her anger and her feistiness were to blame most of the time. It took one of us girls on a regular basis to bring her back down to earth on multiple occasions. There was a drama or two at any time, and whilst she said she didn't like to be at the centre of it, I think she secretly thrived it. She had just ended the last relationship and told us that she was using champagne as her coping mechanism to get her through the current phase of her life. Finally, Tilly, my dear sweet Tilly. She was always more caring and calmer than any of us put together. The only thing happening with her was the predicament that she had landed herself in. She told us she had met a married man and that she wasn't proud of herself, nor was she condoning it. But despite her attempts to ignore him and tell him no, they seemed to be back together again. Apparently, the man was getting a divorce and his wife had been pulling him through hell and back. But I couldn't help but feel that that was feeding Tilly a pack of lies. She felt bad for him and her in the scenario and reassured us that she could handle the situation and she knew that she was letting herself in for it. But again, I was just concerned as a friend for her welfare. I didn't stay long, despite me not wanting to. I had to drive back and the drinks were calling me. It was nice to catch up with everyone. The club became busier and before long we were shouting above the music and struggling to maintain our space at the bar. That was my cue to head home. Well, Samuel's home, in fact, and back into my comfortable clothes. I wanted a fresh look at the case tomorrow and to see if I could carry out a few background checks on what Cordelia Jones had told me. As I got in the car, my phone began vibrating from the passenger seat next to me. I could see it was from Cordelia, but not what it said. Too eager to keep driving and read it when I got back, I indicated and pulled over to the side of the road. It read, "This is Jenny's contact number, followed by a number. P.S. It's happening again." I tried to call Cordelia, but she wasn't picking up. I couldn't text as I was driving. "Sorry, Esme, can't speak. He's following us again. I'm scared, don't know what to do." Cordelia texted again. I had to stop at the junction to read it. "God damn it, Cordelia, answer your phone," I said out aloud. I tried calling again, even though she couldn't speak, but I wanted to make sure that she was safe. I tried ringing again. This time it went straight to voicemail. I was confused. It couldn't be Andrew Faraday. He was dead. Who on earth was following her now, and what was the fascination with her daughter? "Cordelia, pick up, pick up," I repeated myself into the car. Where was she? Was she in danger?